Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So I finally got a chance to see Chris Rock's Selective Outrage. As you all know, that has generated a lot of controversy because he made remarks about Will Smith and Jada Pickett Smith. And this comes after that notorious incident where Will Smith got on stage during the Oscars and slapped Chris Rock in the face in the middle of his routine. And so after that, as you all know, Will Smith has been banned from the Oscars for a number of years. And, so because of all that background, this stand-up routine has generated a lot of controversy, a lot of attention from the press. And I want to just take some time to share my quick thoughts about it. First of all, the routine was not that funny. Like his whole stand-up act was not that funny. And usually Chris Rock does have a lot of funny routines, despite how you feel about him or whatever. He's one of the most prominent comedians in America today. But his stand-up was not that funny overall. Of course there were funny moments, but it was not as funny as I expected. The other thing is this. A lot of people have been criticizing Chris Rock and pulling up old videos and photos of him to basically suggest that he's some kind of sellout, that he's some kind of Uncle Ruckus type character or a quote unquote coon. And I just want to share my quick thoughts about that. And I understand why people are doing that. They put up a video of him where he's with these white comedians, with Jerry Seinfeld and some other white comedians. And he's basically fine with these white comedians using the N-word, and then he's using the N-word. He's joking around with these guys, just showing that he's a complete sellout, and if I get a chance, I'll post a link to that particular video footage so you can see it for yourself. But he's okay with these white comedians using the N-word. He's okay with joking with them about using the N-word and all that kind of stuff. And I will say something a little bit later about that, about how it shows some hypocrisy on his part. So you got that aspect, where he was with these white comedians, joking around, cool with them, using the N-word. Then you had this photo of him on a magazine where he's dressed like a clown, and people are saying that basically he's in blackface, presenting like a Sambo image of black people. And for me, I understand that. Like when you have to tie things to their history. Some people will say, oh, he's just dressed like a clown. It's not blackface or whatever. But you have to connect the dots and tie in the history, especially in light of some of the things that he has said. This man has made comments about how there are black folks and then there are quote unquote N-words. So he has a history of tap dancing. And unfortunately, during this most recent stand-up act, he was tap dancing doing that, talking about like how he would buy some yoga pants from a racist company if the price was right, and saying that he doesn't care anything about how companies stand on these social justice type of issues. So, that's the definition of selling out. And then this guy is a millionaire at the very least. So for him to be talking about how he would rather spend less money on a pair of yoga pants from a racist company than to spend more with a company that takes into consideration social justice issues, just speaks to how much of a sellout this guy is. And then also, during this routine, he actually was joking about Will Smith, and he talked about the movie Emancipation. And he talked about how basically he was, because of his feelings about Will Smith and his, past issues with Will Smith, he was like saying that he was rooting for the slave master in that Emancipation film. And I think that's sickening. Like, no matter how much somebody irritates you or no matter what kind of issues you've had with somebody in the past, it is just absolutely sickening for you to be talking about you rooting for the slave master, rooting for the person that enslaved your ancestors, beat your ancestors, brutalized your ancestors. And that speaks to the sellout factor that I mentioned before with this guy, Chris Rock. His whole history is selling out. Now, I want to address, like, real quickly, the comments that he made about Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith. First of all, he kept saying that he didn't do anything to Will Smith. He said, I ain't do nothing to this nigga. Like, I don't know why he did X, Y, and Z, why he got up there and slapped me. He's acting like he's completely oblivious, or, oblivious to reality, and he doesn't know what's going on. The fact of the matter is, this man disrespected him and his wife in front of not only the immediate audience at the Oscars, but before the whole world. So he can't sit back and play innocent, play like he doesn't know what's going on. He has no idea why Will Smith is mad. And then the fact of the matter is, this issue has been going on for a while now, from what I understand. He's been making these jokes about Jada Pinkett Smith for the longest of time and stuff. And, and that brings me to another point that I'll address in a second. So he can't pretend like he's all innocent and stuff like that. So that's what I have to say about that. So he can't sit back and act like, oh, I have no idea why this guy got up on stage and slapped me. Not to condone what Will Smith did, not to condone that at all, but he can't pretend like he doesn't know why Will Smith was outraged, why Will Smith was upset and stuff like that. Now, with respect to what Chris Rock said about Will Smith, basically saying that Will Smith was really not really focused on Chris Rock. He was more focused on his wife. Like, it was really about his wife and, the issues that he had with his wife and the problems that they've had. And he caused, Chris Rock brought up the whole thing about August and, the entanglement and all that kind of stuff. And he brought up a very good point about how they made this whole situation public involving August and, the entanglement and stuff like that. And they actually had an interview where the person that was actually, where Will Smith's wife, who cheated on him, is actually interviewing him and asking him about his thoughts and all this about that whole situation. And, that's bizarre, to say the least. And when you do stuff like that, when you open yourself up to the public, then you are exposing yourself to public scrutiny and stuff. People can legitimately talk about your personal business, especially given the fact that you're a celebrity and stuff. So I think that he made a valid point about that. And I do believe that part of what was going on was the fact that Will Smith was trying to please Jada. Because at first, like as many people have pointed out, when he heard the joke, he was laughing. When he heard some of the jokes, he was laughing along. And then he looked at his wife and saw that she was displeased. So in order to appease her, this man did what he did, basically. And the fact of the matter is, after he did it, his wife was laughing about it. Like, if you watch the video clips, his wife was laughing shortly after Will Smith did this. And then she literally threw him under the bus and, disassociated herself from what he did. So she is not a wife of the year. She is not some great human being or anything like that. And I think a lot of the criticism of her is legitimate. She put Will Smith in a position where he basically looked like a little punk, a simp before the whole world. And so part of me understands what Chris Rock was saying in that particular stand-up act and all that kind of stuff. I think that there is some truth to what he said about how Will Smith was basically reacting to his wife. And, it was more about his anger and his response to his wife more so than, some hurt out of what Chris Rock necessarily said or did or whatever. And if you, look into Will Smith's history, like if you check out his autobiography, he talks about like his concerns about being a coward and not doing anything. So yeah, this whole thing is bigger than Chris Rock. It's not just about Chris Rock. That is not the sole reason why he reacted the way he did. But yeah, I mean, and one thing, from the media, you will get the idea that this whole routine was all about Will Smith, but that was really just a small portion of his stand-up act. It wasn't the focus of his stand-up act. And then, like, I've seen a lot of people criticizing Chris Rock, basically saying, well, he shouldn't have done this and he's so petty for doing this and stuff like that. And here's what I have to say about that. I don't think that that's the case. Like, that was a traumatic experience for him to get slapped in front of all these people. And I'm not defending Chris Rock at all. I don't think what he did was right, the way he talked about them. And I did a prior video where I was basically defending Will Smith and how he reacted and stuff. But yeah, I don't think that the thing is, like, you know, a lot of people have been criticizing Chris Rock for this. And the fact of the matter is, he got slapped in front of all these people. It was a traumatic experience. I'm sure it had some emotional impact on him. It's not about just the physical slap. It's about the humiliation, public humiliation of that, at that, worldwide humiliation of that. So he has a lot of issues that he's unpacking and stuff like that. So I can understand why he would use this opportunity to vent and to express his outrage and stuff like that. You know, so I'm not going to make somebody who in some ways is a victim, like he did get slapped by somebody who's much taller and bigger and stronger than him. So this is his way of reacting, his way of expressing himself. And too often what we do is we try to suppress black men, and like we try to make it so we can't express ourselves and tell how we feel about things. And that's part of the reason why people have high blood pressure and all this stress, because they're trying to put on this public face and pretend like they're unfazed when they're going through all this emotional turmoil. So I don't hate the brother for expressing how he genuinely feels about the situation. We need to give black men space to express ourselves and stuff like that, instead of telling people to constantly man up and not have any emotions and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, you know, that's how I feel about that. I don't think that people should be, you know, piling on and criticizing Chris Rock for expressing himself, you know, for expressing how he felt. Chris Rock could have sued Will Smith for millions of dollars. You know, he could have done that. He could have sued the Oscars for inadequate security. He could have done a lot of things. So people shouldn't be so quick to condemn him for just expressing himself, for expressing his anger and all that stuff, and calling it, you know, petty and stuff like that. Why is it that when men express themselves as petty, you know, and they're subjected to all this critique and stuff? The other thing I want to talk about real quick is this. Chris Rock said during his stand-up routine that the reason why he didn't respond to, you know, the reason why he didn't fight Will Smith back is because he doesn't want to fight in front of white people. And I think that's that was part of the reason why he didn't fight back or anything like that. And I think that's by far one of the lamest excuses ever made by somebody. I mean, this is a guy that has no problem joking about how there are black folks and their N-words. This is a guy that has no problem with joking and laughing with white people using the N-word about black people. This is a man who has no problem saying these disparaging things about black women and stuff like that. But then all of a sudden, when he's faced with physical confrontation, all of a sudden he wants to be above the fray and talk about how black people shouldn't be doing certain things in front of white people. And I think that's complete BS. So with that, please rate, comment, subscribe, like the video, share the video, hit that notification bell so that you'll know when I post new content on here. And before I go, I want to remind you all that our book club meets on the last Sunday of each month at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Our next book will be Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. And I hope that you all can check that out. Like the page. I'll post a link to the latest invite when I get a chance. Peace and blessings. Have a great day.